Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name's Jenny and this is Arnold the Praying Penguin, and today when this video comes out is my 25th birthday. So I asked you guys over my community tab what kind of thing you'd like to see from me to kind of celebrate my 25th birthday today. And you guys voted for 25 things that I've learnt in 25 years. So that's what we're doing today. I've got 25 things that I want to talk about, and I'm going to try not to talk about them for too long, otherwise we'll be here for hours and hours. But these are just things that have really stood out to me that I've learned over the last 25 years. So the first one is pray first. Basically any situation that you're in can be made better if you pray about it first. Even if that's just making you feel calmer going into it, less anxious, and helping you through that situation. Number 2, you are allowed to have strong opinions. I used to think kind of as a Christian that I couldn't have strong opinions about anything because there's nuance to everything and I need to be kind. That's just not true. I can have strong opinions and still share them in love and still treat people with respect who disagree with me, but I can still hold a strong opinion about something that I believe in. Number 3, your wedding day doesn't have to be the best day of your life. I really enjoyed my wedding day. I think it was a brilliant day. There's so many parts of that day that I don't really remember that well now, kind of coming up to 5 years later. And there's so many other days of my life that have been more memorable maybe, and even more fun. And I think we often put a lot of pressure on the wedding day to be this most important day and be everything we've ever dreamed of. And it just doesn't need to have that much pressure on it. It can be fun, and there'll be loads of other fun days in your life too. Number 4, an experience can be joyful and traumatic at the same time. And I think this is a really kind of a weird brain thing, but just because something is really difficult and really challenging to go through doesn't mean it can't also bring you joy. So for me, an example of this is when I gave birth to my daughter. Basically I had some different kind of complications going on, and that made that experience, looking back, in some ways quite dramatic, but in some ways also very joyful and positive. And in my brain that's kind of weird, but it's true, it can be both joyful and traumatic at the same time. Number 5, children are a blessing, not a burden. I think our society often talks about all the things that children will take away from us and the things that we won't be able to do once we've had children. And that just hasn't been my experience of having a child. It's been a really wonderful experience, and she's been such a blessing and a joy in my life. And she's added things, she's brought things into my life that I maybe couldn't have done before or didn't do before, but now I get to do. I really should have numbered these. I'm having to count every time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, you are not bad at prayer. I used to think that there were people that were good at prayer and you had to learn and become better and you reached this point when you were good at prayer. And that just isn't true. I don't think anyone is bad at prayer unless you're just not praying at all. As long as you're praying and talking to God and seeking God out, then you are good at prayer. There's always things we can do to kind of help our prayer life and grow in prayer, but you're not bad at prayer. Number 7, you don't have to be productive all the time. This is one I still kind of struggle with, and I always want to be doing something. I can't just kind of sit back and relax that often. I mean, sometimes I can, I do love a lion, but often I'll always be thinking about what should I be doing, what do I need to be doing now. I'm always wanting to get something done. And this is something my daughter has really kind of taught me, and having a daughter has really taught me. It's just that actually it's okay to just sit on the floor and play with her for an hour or 2 or however long, because that is still valuable time. I don't have to be getting something done at the same time as doing that. That in itself is good enough. Number 8, you have no idea what's coming your way. I am a big planner. I love to plan things. I love to know what's coming. But in life, it just doesn't really work that way. There are so many things that could come around the corner any moment and surprise you. Good things, bad things, somewhere in the middle things, but you just don't know what's coming and you don't know what your life is going to look like in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. My life now looks completely different to what I expected it to 5, 10 years ago. Completely different. And I think we just always need to be prepared for these surprises and put our trust in God. Number 9, just because an opinion is the loudest doesn't make it right. There are some very loud sections of our society, particularly kind of on social media or maybe in your own friend group, and that opinion is just incredibly loud and the only thing you hear. But that doesn't mean it's the opinion that most people hold, and it doesn't make it an opinion that is correct. I think as Christians we always need to turn back to the Bible for truth rather than listening to whichever voice is the loudest. Number 10 is kind of an example of that, but basically don't have sex until you're married. This is one of the best decisions that I've ever made, and yes, it goes against kind of societal norms and what other people maybe in your life are saying, but I can assure you it is a brilliant decision and you won't regret it. Number 11, don't force yourself to fit into the narrative. So often I hear things like, oh, all women believe this, or all mums think this. And if that isn't what I think, sometimes I find that kind of confusing and maybe think that I'm wrong and that I should fit into that narrative because that's what everyone else is saying, that's what everyone else thinks. Why don't I think that? What's wrong with me? And that just isn't the case. I can have a different opinion, I can have a different experience, and I'm sure there are other people out there that see things in the same way as I do or have experienced things in the same way as I do. But I don't need to change my thoughts or my experiences to fit into what other people think is kind of the general narrative. Number 12, children don't have to change your relationships, but they can. This is one where other people in my life always kind of led me to believe that my relationships would absolutely change when I had children. And I think to a certain extent there's some truth in this. A lot of relationships do change when you have children and you're in a different life stage. But what I've learned is they don't have to. There are a lot of things that we've done and put in place to continue our relationships with people who don't have kids and who are in different life stages to us, and things that we do to keep those relationships and really invest in them. Number 13, challenging situations will teach you more about yourself. I've had a couple of kind of difficult and challenging situations in the last kind of year or two, and those have really taught me a lot about myself and how I deal with different situations and what helps me and what things I enjoy and what things are important to me. And it's been really interesting to kind of see some assumptions that I'd made about myself completely changed and completely challenged, and just learn new things about myself through those situations. Not to say that those situations are nice in any way, or that we're being given those situations to teach us something about ourselves. I don't think that's always true, but I think we can learn things about ourselves through those challenging situations. Number 14 is say no more. And again, this is one I'm still kind of working on. I often hear someone saying that they need something done or they need someone who's good at X thing, and I think, oh, that's me, I'll sign up, I'll help with that, that sounds easy. But I don't always think about everything that's currently on my plate, and then I end up doing lots of things not to the best of my ability or not as well as they could have been done. And I need to learn to say no to more things, or just not sign up for as many things, because it's much harder to stop doing something once you're already doing it than it is just to say no or not sign up for it in the first place, in my experience. And sometimes having fewer things on your plate and being able to do them really, really well is better. Number 15, you don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. This is something I learned probably as kind of a teenager. Basically, there were lots of things that I did growing up that I just wasn't the best at, to be honest. I did lots of music things, I did lots of sports things, and I just didn't have the kind of natural talent that lots of other people had. And my sister, for example, did have natural talent in all of those things and could come in and kind of beat me at everything with zero practice. She was one of those. And it would be something that I would train for over and over again. I'd go to athletics every single week, and I'd do running throughout the week and not necessarily get much faster. And then she would come in no practice and completely beat me, and it was very sad. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't enjoy those things just because I wasn't the best at them. I really learnt that there were other things, as well as being good at something, that could help me to enjoy it, whether that was the community that I was doing it with, or just getting involved, or learning something new. Those things helped me to enjoy, whether it was running or playing music or whatever it was, even if I wasn't the best at it. Number 16 is choose carefully the people that you surround yourself with. The people that you surround yourself with, that you spend the most time with, are the people that you are allowing to have influence in your life, and the people who will rub off on you and who will impact what you act like and how you treat other people and how you talk. So choose those people carefully based on how you want to live your life. Number 17, don't let people look down on you for being younger. I've definitely had in a few different places and a few different jobs when you get there and people are like, oh, you're young enough to be my daughter, I'm old enough to be your mum, in a kind of patronising way. And I always found that really annoying, honestly, and quite frustrating. And I felt that people were looking down on me or assuming that I wasn't as good at something because I was younger than them. And I really think that this is something that A, I don't want other people to do, and B, I really want to make sure that I don't do to other people. And to know that wisdom doesn't come necessarily with age. Sure, we can learn through our life experiences, but not every person who is older is wiser, and not everyone who's younger is less wise. So we shouldn't treat people as if that's the case. Number 18 is take your baby to church because it's worth it. This was really important for us when we had our daughter, to take her to church and really get stuck in with church from her being quite a young age. And I've really appreciated that and enjoyed that. And it's really put us in like a good habit now, nearly a year later, where it's not that church is necessarily easy with a 11-month-old, but we know how to do it and we're well practiced now and we know how to kind of deal with the different situations, and we as a family are really embedded in our church family too. Number 19 is give more grace than you think you should. As humans, maybe we know that we need to give grace to people and kind of offer that grace to them, but we come to the end of our tether much quicker than we should. So I think a good rule is the amount of grace that you think you should give, we should be giving more than that. Number 20 is take all of the photos. I love photos, I love to print photos, I love keeping photos in a photo album and in photo frames, and seeing all these photos, particularly kind of over the last year of Georgia and her life and pictures of us and her. They're really, really special to me. So I'm glad that I've taken so many photos, and that's something I want to keep doing. 21 is let yourself change. I think sometimes we can get stuck in a rut thinking that, oh, I've always liked this thing, I've always been good at this thing, so I can't possibly change that because that's just become such a big part of my personality or of who I am. But that isn't who you are. You can change your opinions, you can change your interests, you can change how you dress and how you act and how you treat people. And you definitely don't have to stay the same way that you've always been just because that's how other people see you. 22. Hard is not the same thing as bad. And this is one, if you've been on my channel for a little while, you've probably heard me talk about before, but this is stolen from Abby over at M is for Mama, and it's just so true. Something can be really hard and really challenging to go through, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. So she often talks about this in terms of parenting and raising children and those experiences. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's bad. Those things are different. Number 23 is seek advice. I think this is something that we don't do very much as a society necessarily. We just want to follow our gut or follow our feelings, follow our heart, whatever it is. But actually seeking advice from wiser people than you, older Christians who know you well, who you trust, asking them for advice about your life can be so beneficial and give you a completely different perspective on a situation. Number 24, you are valued and loved, but that doesn't mean that you're perfect. I think society at the moment is very hot on self-love and knowing that we are loved and that we are valuable, and those things are true, and those are things that the Bible teaches us, that God loves us, that God created us and values us. Those things are so true and so important. But the Bible goes one step further and reminds us that that doesn't mean we're perfect and that we should stay the way that we are. It says that God loves us and he meets us where we are, but he also wants us to change and grow and become more like Jesus. Number 25, love is a choice. Whether this is in your marriage or your friendships or your other kind of family relationships, you can't just rely on love as a feeling, as something that will just always be there and is kind of just this magic force that holds you together with other people. Because in life we go through bumps and ups and downs, and that will be challenged. Our feelings don't always stay the same. Love should be a choice that you're making every day to continue to love and serve and respect someone else, in whatever kind of relationship that looks like. So those are just 25 things that I've learnt in the last 25 years. I'd love to know if any of those kind of stood out to you, that you thought were really interesting, maybe you'd like to hear more about. Let me know down in the comments. Also let me know what is one thing that you have learnt in your life that you think is the most important thing. But I've mentioned my daughter Georgia a couple of times in this video, so if you'd like to hear more about kind of how to pray with a baby, do check out this video right here when I talk about that. We will see you very soon for a new video. Bye!